Good morning, everybody. I'm really happy about what we have to present to all of you today. I'm Bill Haskell. I'm on the board of San Francisco Village. Here's what's going to be happening this morning. Three people will be briefly introducing this session. Then we're going to hear from 5 climate action organizations about their work and how we might get involved. Please take notes as you listen, focusing especially on what you hear that you like about each organization and what is most interesting to you. Each organization will have 7 minutes to provide a brief overview of its mission and activities, to tell us what upcoming activities are taking place in the spring and what they're most excited about, and explain how older adults can play a role in the organization's activities. After these presentations, we will go into 9 breakout groups for 15 minutes for you to share what's most interesting to you with each other, to get to meet each other. And you should identify a facilitator and a note taker. The note taker will be the person who reports out later when we return back to our larger group. And these breakout groups are really your time to talk and to meet each other from the 2 different villages and other villages that are with us today. So I'm going to turn it back over to Rochelle.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Rochelle Lefkowitz. I'm a board member of Ashby Village, the co-founder of Ashby Village Elder Action, and the chair of the new Elder Action Climate Justice Task Force. So to pick up where Bill left off, when we return to this larger group, each representative of a breakout group will have a very brief chance to explain the group members' reactions to the presentations and to ask the speakers one question. So each representative will have about a minute to talk. And then the people who have been the presenters will have some time to answer those questions. And finally, at the end of today's session, with Suyin's help, you will choose a new group to join that will be aligned with the group of one of the climate action presenters. These new groups are going to meet online between today and a second session of this larger group that we have planned for April. This time when you're together will be your chance to explore online the organization that is most of interest to you. And when we reconvene in April, you're going to get to share what you and your group learned from your explorations and research about your chosen organization and what climate actions you would like to take next. Bill?
Thank you, Rochelle.
You're
I
welcome.
want to underscore our purpose for today, which is really to explore together how to leverage the power of older adults by collaborating on climate change and climate action opportunities. Some background. In San Francisco Village in the fall of 2020, we had a small group of SF Village members reading Jane Fonda's book, What Can I Do? Moving from Climate Despair to Action. While it was a fascinating read and a very interesting story, it was a bit dense and there were so many opportunities that it was overloading. And we realized we needed a larger group to really make any impact. So I reached out to Ashby Village and to the Village Movement California, and I was introduced to Rochelle Lefkowitz. And here we are today, the result of our work together for the past, Lord, a lot of time in putting this together. So we're really excited about today, and I want to return this back over now to Rochelle.
Thank you, Bill. And I'm so glad to be with you today to learn more about what we can do to have an impact on the climate crisis. Starting today, you won't have to live alone with your concerns about it anymore. I'm no scientist, but you don't have to know the ins and outs of carbon dioxide removal to act on climate change together with members and volunteers from your village community. Turns out our timing is great. Climate activist Bill McKibben, who's now 60 himself, who with a group of students co-founded what became the Global Climate Action Organization, 350.org. Well, Bill has recently announced a new focus. I hope, said Bill McKibben, and this may be work that I'm going to be doing more of over the next few years, I hope we can bring one group that isn't fully engaged, which is older people. We want them fully on board. If you can get grandparents answering the call of the Sunrise Movement generation, then we've got a chance for political shifts that will make rapid progress easier. And he also said, that's the hardest political block in this country to crack, and I think we need to do it. Well, Bill, we're here in villages. Some of us at Ashby Village have been involved in climate action. My husband, Felix Kramer, a clean tech and climate activist who you'll be hearing from shortly about active allies. Felix has spoken to our Science and Ideas Interest Group at Ashby Village. Elder Action, now 90 members strong, formed a climate justice task force at our last general meeting last month. We committed our climate action to reflect our village's commitments to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Still others of you may have recently heard the Emeritus Director of Lifelong Medical, Marty Lynch, address how climate change already harms older adults' health, especially those of us in poor Black and brown neighborhoods that are hotter and closer to pollution. All of that background said, our three goals for today's session are: first, to introduce you to 5 Bay Area climate action organizations and to each other. Next, to help you choose an organization of most interest to you and to join a small group to learn more about it together after this session. And then to organize a second session of this larger group for next month to share what we've learned and to share some next steps that we plan to take to get involved in climate action starting this spring, bringing our strengths, our commitment, our energy and wisdom to this existential emergency. And now, I'm pleased to introduce Charlotte Dixon. Charlotte is the Executive Director of Village Movement California, the statewide association of over 40 California villages. Welcome, Charlotte.
Great, thank you. And I want to thank Bill and Rochelle for inviting me to this gathering. I wanted to read the vision statement of Village Movement California because I think that you're embodying this in this work to self-organize yourselves to become involved in the larger climate issue. So Village Movement California envisions a society where all stages of life offer meaningful opportunities for connection and joy, where people of all backgrounds and economic means can age with dignity, purpose, and self-determination. I think this is what you're doing as you come together. And then we also say together we can make so much more progress than we can alone. And you know, climate change is a collective crisis and it requires collective solutions. And while individually, many of us are doing to make a difference, our power comes when we work together. So we need to focus on structural change, and that's what you'll learn about today. Women, young and old, are at the forefront of climate justice. And working in collaboration, and older women and younger women. And that's relevant because our membership across villages is about almost 3/4 women. So our women are stepping forward and our men too. So with that, I want to thank you for all that you're doing and offer Village Movement California as a platform and a supporter for the work that you'll be doing across villages. So thank you so much, Rochelle and Bill.
And you're very welcome, Charlotte. Thank you. And to just say to some of you, while this was put together by the San Francisco Village and Ashby Village, we also, thanks to Charlotte, have people from several other villages throughout the state of California with us this morning and who will be talking in their villages. Many of us here today are new to climate change. We share a dedication to climate justice and multi-generational experiences. So rather than reinvent the wheel, we reached out to 5 Bay Area organizations to inform us this morning about a variety of climate actions already being planned and to offer us chances to work with a diverse set of younger yet more experienced climate activists. And we're going to start this morning with Carol Rothman, who is on the member coordinating committee of 1,000 Grandmothers for Future Generations. Thank you, Carol.
Good morning. 1,000 Grandmothers for Future Generations started back in 2016, working in solidarity with Native grandmothers in the Standing Rock struggle to stop the Dakota Access Pipeline. Next slide, please. We organized a fundraiser and film, next slide, showing for our Lakota grandmothers on the Cheyenne River Reservation in South Dakota. We've continued to work in close partnership with Indigenous organizations such as Idle No More Bay Area. Next. We don't use a biological definition of grandmothers, but we apply it to all elder women who are passionate about leaving a more livable planet for all of the children and coming generations. We also welcome allies of all genders to our actions and meetings. Next slide, next 2 slides, please. We have marched, we've rallied, we've joined coalitions with others, and here we are at the Solano Stroll, where I might say we won an award for our art. Next 3 slides, please. We reach out to support youth leadership. The youth of Extinction Rebellion and Sunrise took off a day from school in these slides to demand that Chevron stop poisoning their futures. In addition to standing alongside them, we made hundreds of sandwiches for them. Next slide. Because we understand that the issues of climate change cannot be separated from justice, we respond where we are needed. We headed into the streets even in the pandemic. Next slide, please, to safely paint the streets in downtown Oakland to stop our democracy from being stolen. To do this long banner in the street, we worked with 8 other organizations. Next slide. We've come out for immigrant justice. Next slide. You've probably noticed all the colors and vibrancy of our banners and our umbrellas. Art is really important to us. We have many women who put their art talents to work to bring beauty, hope, and inspiration to all that we do. We also enjoy singing together at all of our events. Next slide. Some of us engage in nonviolent direct action, and some of us risk arrest. Here we are blocking the entrances of the Army Corps of Engineers to stop more pipeline. Next slide. There are many roles in the Nonviolent Direct Action Group for those who cannot or do not want to risk arrest. Here we are at one of our trainings, working with the fearless grandmothers from Idle No More. We have several trainings coming up in the coming month that some of you might want to participate in. Next 3 slides, please. There are many ways to be involved. Recently, we organized a tremendous turnout in the last couple of years to stop the dredging of the San Francisco Bay, which would have meant large tankers coming through the bay that could bring filthy tar sands to be refined at Phillips Refinery in Rodeo. Sometimes we win. We've been part of the Protect the Bay Coalition, and together, after several years of bringing pressure and opposition, we've succeeded in stopping the dredging project from going forward. This means no tar sands in the bay. Next slide. Of course, the pandemic has changed everything, and we've had to think about what it means to be elder activists in the movement. We've done a lot of electoral work, writing thousands and thousands of postcards and making hundreds of phone calls during the election. We have a legislative group that has been working with other groups to focus on needed California legislation. And we've started studying groups to learn together about the intersection of race and climate. Next slide, please. Most recently, we've worked on Stop Line 3, a pipeline being routed through Ojibwe territory in Minnesota through their wild rice wetlands. If completed, it would emit the equivalent of 50 coal plants a day. We raised $15,000 for supplies for the water protectors who are camping out in the frigid temperatures of northern Minnesota to stop the drilling beneath the Mississippi River. One of our grandmothers just left this morning to join them for a week and is bringing needed supplies and using her training to act as a medic. Next 4 slides. We've made banners, which then got used for a banner drop we did over Interstate 80, responding to the call to increase awareness and support Stop Line 3, something we need to push Biden to do as soon as possible. He stopped Keystone, now we need to get him to stop Line 3. We've helped to organize a multiracial, multi-generational street mural painting in front of the Oakland Federal Building, where different groups created their own circles. Here is ours, next slide. If you want to work with elder women, activist women for climate justice, Thousand Grandmothers is the place for you. Next slide. You can sign up on our email lists. Next slide. If you go to our website, which is here, it tells you how to sign up. You also can take a look at our Facebook and follow our Facebook page if you do Facebook. We look forward to working with you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Carol. We really appreciate those specifics because many of us are here saying, we care, but what can we do? So next we're going to hear from Felix Kramer, the founder, and Costanza Gonzalo, the communications lead and designer for Active Allies. Felix, Costanza?
Thank you for inviting us. And I have to say, those photos were just an incredible way to start this program. We'll be talking about some things you may not know about. Don't worry, participants will get more information. For decades now, volunteering to spread awareness about climate change and solutions has given my life purpose. And it's given me new friends and colleagues. They raise my spirits. May this happen for you too. I've launched startups that have made a difference, including leading the campaign to get car makers to build plug-in hybrids. Recently, I've become more hopeful. One morning, I woke up and said to my wife, Rochelle Lefkowitz, maybe we're not doomed. I evaluate climate action by 3 criteria: scope, scale, and speed. We still have time to avert catastrophe and build a livable world if we can catalyze changes at the scope, scale, and speed required. Our Bay Area is loaded with imaginative and dedicated entrepreneurs, activists, advocates, and climate leaders. They can use reinforcements. Here we are. Decades ago, I asked a friend, is our best work still ahead of us? I hope when we look back from 2030, we'll say today's diverse climate activists of every age became the great intergeneration. It's time to give ourselves permission to imagine what we really want and work together for that. Why should older activists merely tell young adults, work your butts off for the rest of your lives to avoid the worst consequences of climate change? Instead, how about for a flourishing future, let's collaborate with nature and technology to actually reverse global warming, protect species, avert extinction, restore our climate, and build a just world. We're about to try that by promoting the benefits of regenerative agriculture in California's Central Valley. We know how to do this. We can put to work every person who needs a job so 8 billion people can have ample and pure water and food, clean air and energy, and live in safety, health, and comfort. We're even making progress toward the UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Plus, we can afford it. In MBA language, there are business models to save the world. In COVID's cloud, I find a silver lining. For the first time ever, billions of people around the world awaken daily to the shared reality of the pandemic and to a shared consciousness of how we coexist with nature. And many of us decide to act in ways to protect ourselves and others. To say we're all in this together in our ultra-connected world means heartfelt voices quickly spread everywhere. Amanda Gorman's inaugural poem, The Hill We Climb, thrilled us. Greta Thunberg has galvanized hundreds of millions by speaking truth to power. I've given many people her $9 book. No one is too small to make a difference. Alongside Greta are multitudes of young people. They have the most to lose and the most to gain. They're ready to go all in for better futures. Let's follow their lead and make this decade the transformational 20s. Active Allies works across generations, connecting with young adults who can supply the energy, vision, and leadership to save us. Like Anna Michelle, 24 this week and here today. Among her many insights, she helped me craft my email sign-off, together in grief and hope with radical determination. And to tell you more about Active Allies and how you can help with the Central Valley and other projects, here's our communications lead and designer, Costanza Gonzalo. She's zooming in today from Panama, where she's visiting her family. She's one of thousands in the Bay Area alone, eager for us to work with them. You're in for a good time.
Thank you, Felix, for that intro. Costanza, and we're an intergenerational climate action organization with lots of room for older adults. Right off the bat, we are looking for volunteers to help research and build a special wiki, a crowdsourced encyclopedia, where we'll build a directory of resources, organizations, and projects on regenerative agriculture. Our patient project managers will teach you, and it will be easy and fun. More about us, we are a network of project managers, sponsors, mentors, volunteers, and other partner organizations who work together to get climate projects done. Felix and our co-founder Anna started the Active Allies program to empower young people's essential work on climate solutions in the spirit of intergenerational collaboration and justice. And Active Allies supports a young person earlier in their career so that they can not just volunteer, but get paid and mentored to advance what they care about most, while building that regenerative economy that we need. For example, we partner with the Anthropocene Institute, where our co-founder Anna is working as a climate advocate, and 350 Bay Area, where Nick Vasco works as the mobilizing team organizer. More about myself, I graduated from UC Davis with a major in environmental policy last year in the midst of the pandemic, racial justice protests, a chaotic election, and the climate crisis. And it's felt very chaotic, but it's helped a lot to be working on the things that I care about. Otherwise, I would quite frankly feel very hopeless and overwhelmed. And I think other project managers feel the same way, where we look forward to the support from individuals and organizations so we can focus all of our time and energy on tackling the climate crisis and environmental justice. After a year of working here, I've learned immensely from my peers and my mentors about communicating about the climate crisis in a way that's understandable, relatable, and accessible to all people. So more on what we're looking for and how we're advancing the organization. We're currently hiring a campaign manager for Active Allies. If you or others in your family or network knows a great candidate, send them to us. We're looking for more core team volunteers to help us grow, starting with people to help us on recruitment and partnerships and legal advice. And we're looking for sponsors, mentors, and advisors to help our project managers get all the resources that they need. We're really excited about our big new project, and today's our kickoff announcement for the Central Valley Grow Better initiative. So with this project, we aim to build a rural, small town, urban coalition of growers and eaters to advance regenerative agriculture, starting in the Central Valley that produces a fourth of America's food. Regenerative agriculture starts with farming the way that nature works, and it's a win-win way to put carbon back in the soil. Our volunteers will research what's happening already at farms and organizations, and we'll reach out to partners as we focus on jobs, economic justice, healthy food, and community resilience. We hope some of these ideas have caught your eye, and we can talk more about how we can collaborate. Thank you.
And thank you, Costanza and Felix. Thank you both. And now we're going to hear from Nan Farley, who is the Operations Director of 350 Bay Area. Nan?
Great. Hi, good morning, everyone. Just a little bit about me before I dive into 350 Bay Area. I used to be an Ashby Village volunteer when I lived around the corner from the Berkeley Ashby Village location. And yeah, I worked with Manuela on outreach, and I also did a few assorted projects with some of the elders in the community. And I just wanted to say how much I appreciate this community, and I see so much value in it. I love how connected folks are because of this model, and I think it's really inspiring that you're all wanting to take action together as well. So yeah, that's kind of my background. I come to this work, with a desire for that intergenerational crossover, because I think there's so much that we can all learn from each other. Great, so I'll dive into a little bit more about 350 Bay Area now. I'm the operations director at 350 Bay Area. I've been here for 3 years now, and I've seen quite some growth just in these past 3 years. Kind of like what Felix was saying about some very inspiring words, how we do have some hope. And I see a lot of that because of how many people are coming to this movement continually. And how activated different ages have become. So with the emergence of 1,000 grandmothers becoming real leaders in this movement, and also with young folks like Costanza, who's actually on the 350 Bay Area mobilizing team, which is our youth-led program that Felix kind of helped create in this amazing way. So that's a little bit about the work that we do. I do have a little photo for you. So for anyone who's wondering why 350, if you know how to raise your hand, or if you have your video on, does anybody know what 350 stands for? Maybe show of hands. I see a few hands, but not a ton. Okay, nice. Linda, love that you know. Kate, you know? Okay, so for those of you who don't know what the 350 is all about, it's the safe parts per million of CO2 that we can have in the atmosphere. And so we have surpassed that by a long shot. I think most recently I saw that we're at like 412 parts per million of CO2. So everything that we do at 350 Bay Area is aimed at eliminating carbon pollution. So we're kind of like the bottom line, get the greenhouse gases out. There are a lot of different ways that we do that. So I'm going to show you a little slide, actually. Here we are. So so we work at a local level. I love that there are all the different villages and the different regions. You can see we work in East Bay, Marin, Napa, San Francisco, and Sonoma. There is a 350 Silicon Valley if you happen to be down there and you're on the call today. And we do a bunch of different efforts to create a clean energy future with racial, economic, and environmental justice. You can see here we are out protesting, which is what a lot of these groups do. But I'd love to tell you a little bit more about specifically what 350 Bay Area does. So I love this photo because it's a long time photo, and you can see a lot of the intergenerational work, and even here is Felix. So here we are working to declare a climate emergency, I believe in the city of Berkeley a long time ago. And I think this is a great example of what we do at 350 Bay Area. As we work mainly with agencies and, in the realm of policy to create environmental policy and push for that and build political pressure around it. So a lot of what we do is in that political and educational realm and that type of organizing. Oh, great. Thanks for posting that link from Bill McKibben, Kate. Yeah, we actually, a little bit of backstory on 350 Bay Area. We were founded by people coming together around the Do the Math tour, kind of like this bottom line, what does the math say and what do we need to do to accomplish it? So that's really baked into our theory of change at 350 Bay Area, is making sure that policy matches the science. So that's constantly what we're advocating for. We're not allowing politicians to greenwash and just say like, oh yeah, we'll do, we do have a lot of these like targeted plans for the future, right? Like all electric vehicles by 2035 in California. We were part of that push, and we're really glad that that's a law now, but like, what does that tangibly mean in the current moment? And so we work with agencies to make sure that we can make that transition. And we don't just look at those long-term targets. We try to figure out how can we meet these targets, in the next year, in the next 5 years, so that we're on track to be all electric in the future. So that's a little bit of the nitty gritty, and I'm excited to tell you all about how you can get involved. One other thing, I know there was a request to let you all know a little bit more about our mobilizing team, and I love that because some of Felix are here because they're so involved with it. So yeah, I'd just love to show you this photo of a protest that we did very recently. This was last month, actually just 2 weeks ago. You can see folks of all ages. We've got some retired folks over here. This is our executive director, and then some younger folks from our mobilizing team. And this is a protest at the proposed mega gas station in Novato. So we are also tracking these, ways that fossil fuel infrastructure are trying to legally get approved. So we're trying to intervene before they can even get the permit to create the gas station. Unfortunately, it was just last week that went through with I believe it's the Board of Supervisors. So now we're headed on to make a comment at the city council. And I believe that's coming up. So yeah, it's a process. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. Like we heard, I mean, it's exciting to hear about some of the wins, but it is a process, and everything we do, even if we don't win a specific issue, is growing the public awareness around these things and also getting more people involved than ever before. Like I was saying, I think that's one of the most inspiring parts. So yeah, that's our mobilizing team. They mobilize around efforts and initiatives. And we always need folks to come out to those things and be part of that planning process. We do try to, for the actions that are led by the mobilizing team, younger folks are kind of calling the shots. But we're always looking for input and direct action planning support. So yeah, on to where do older folks, belong in 350 Bay Area. So I wanted to tell you a few stories about some of our amazing older volunteers. We're primarily retired folks, actually. So our mobilizing team was kind of this concerted effort to make sure that we're incorporating all voices in our actions. But 350 Bay Area has a history of being a lot of retired folks who almost work full time at 350 Bay Area. It's really inspiring. So this is Richard right here. He's part of 350 Marin and leads our grants team. So he's great at research and writing, always creatively thinking about new avenues for funding. And in a way, I think the grants team is a great example of how this work can be fun, because it's almost become like a social club. We look forward to seeing each other on the call every week and getting creative. We come with our new ideas and our updates. So yeah, it's a really fun way of being social and also organizing. And yeah, there's a lot of different realm for different interests and skills that you may have. So that's just one team. That's kind of more of an internal team. And more of an external team. This is Ken right here, who's also part of 350 Marin and 350 Bay Area, of course. He's got the shirt on. And Ken leads our clean energy work and our clean air work. So Ken is really digging in with some of the reports from the Bay Area Air Quality Management District and looking at what are their plans? Do they need additional support to make these plans happen? Should we be pressuring them? Are there meetings we can attend that they'll be talking about particulate matter regulation? So that's kind of more on the external regulatory side that Ken's organizing. And obviously he's not doing that alone. If you're really wanting to become an expert in this stuff, you can be like Ken, but you can also just come to those meetings and have those talking points that the clean air team comes up with already. These are the ways that, we need to have clean air because it's giving asthma to our community, as we've already heard, all of the different health effects. So yeah, you don't have to be an expert to be on the team. That's why they exist, to help make just everyday people experts on these issues.
Thank you, Nan. We really appreciate the kinds of real specifics that you've been talking about, and will be talking about more, I suspect, in the small breakout group that you're going to be part of.
Perfect. Thank you all.
Thank you. And now Julia Foote is the community organizer of the Sierra Club San Francisco Bay chapter, and she's also with the Sunrise Movement, and she will be speaking to us next. Julia?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Julia. I'm an organizer with the Sierra Club SFV chapter. And I'm sure the Sierra Club is an organization that many of you are familiar with. It's one of the oldest environmental organizations in the United States. It was founded in 1892, and across the country, there's almost 4 million members and supporters. So there are a lot of national campaigns. But it's an interesting organization because here we have a local chapter. And our local chapter, the SFV chapter, has about 40,000 members who live in Alameda, Contra Costa, Marin, and San Francisco counties. And you know, it's been really interesting working for this chapter because the Sierra Club was founded here in the Bay Area, so there's a real legacy here. And we do a lot of environmental policy organizing. We make political endorsements here, and we have really strong relationships with local elected officials, which really helps us push our policy agenda. And so the mission of Sierra Club broadly is to explore, enjoy, and protect the wild places of the earth, to practice and promote the responsible use of Earth's ecosystems and resources, and to educate and enlist humanity to protect and restore the quality of the natural and human environment, and to use all lawful means to carry out these objectives. So we're definitely fortunate to have a lot of legal resources. We have great lawyers who work with us, where we file a lot of lawsuits to stop bad things from happening. But in the Bay Area, we're really lucky to be so rich in other community-based organizations. Many of them are here today, that are all doing important local work. So we do try to partner with other local groups and work together to accomplish our more local vision, which is a Bay Area where a diverse, inclusive, and well-informed environmental movement has achieved a healthy and sustainable natural and urban environment that's an inspiration for communities everywhere. So we really want the Bay Area to be an example of great environmental policy. And we do try to center equity in our work because we know that moving forward in this movement, we have to both advocate for people and the planet. And you know, living in an area with a lot of compounding social and environmental pressures, we're trying to do a better job to address how all of those things are connected. So in the Bay chapter, we work on a variety of issues. I can speak to a couple of campaigns that the organizers on staff work on. We have one organizer who's focused on shutting down coal terminals and refineries in the Bay Area and pushing for a just transition to clean energy. So it means we're trying to work closely with labor to make sure that the jobs in the fossil fuel industry can transition over to good, well-paying jobs in the clean energy sector. And another big campaign that we're having a lot of success on here is building electrification, which means that we are trying to move our energy grid locally in a direction where we can be using clean energy in the future and not be reliant on gas infrastructure. And the campaign I work on in the Bay Area is I do a lot of land use work. So we are pushing for smart growth, which is really thinking about where and how we build, you know, with climate pressures like sea level rise and wildfires, and wanting to reduce emissions from driving. We are thinking about, and also, you know, living in an area with a housing crisis, we are doing a lot of work to think about how and where we build. So I guess where you all come in is I'm going to talk about a couple levels of involvement in our chapter. We have a lot of volunteer leaders who are really policy savvy. So if there are issues that you know a lot about and are really passionate about, we have regional groups and issue committees. So you can join a regional group to connect with other people in your area to work on a variety of issues, or if there's a particular issue that you're interested in, for example, water or transportation, energy, zero waste, we have specific issue committees. And right now they're all meeting virtually. So if you're kind of interested on being on the policy side of things, that would be a great place to get involved. And I'd be happy to connect you to volunteer leaders. But I'm definitely want to be honest, like it is a little bit of a more intense involvement because you're really trying to set policy for the Bay Area. So we want to, be aware that there are different levels of and types of involvement that people want to have in our community. So luckily we have an activities calendar that shows kind of the events that we have in our chapter, and we keep this very up to date. So as you can see on this calendar, you can see when all of these committees and groups meet. But if you're not interested in being on one of those committees, we have virtual Green Fridays where folks come together, gather online and learn about a particular topic. And then there's also these virtual Let in the Wow, which are these virtual events where you can practice mindfulness to help you connect with nature around you, especially as we're all apart right now. And I will say we have a really robust outings program where folks get together and go on hikes or nature walks. They're always listed the level of difficulty or the time commitment, so you can find a walk that's accessible to you. But at this time we are not doing in-person gatherings, but when they do resume, they'll be posted on that calendar, which will be sent out to you in the follow-up email. And then the last thing I'll talk about with the Sierra Club SFB chapter is we've just formed an advocacy team. And this is kind of to fill that gap of knowing like we have a clear agenda of what we want to accomplish as an organization, but we need people power to help us achieve that. So really, this is a group of volunteers we're gathering monthly on a virtual forum to take action together. And there's a lot of room to kind of form what this group looks like because it's pretty new. But we do have an email list that you can join if you're interested in gathering on this advocacy team. We're hoping to do some phone banking, text banking, letter writing, even delivering public comment on issues that we work on. So this is a great place to come to if you're like, I want to come take action. And so we get together and figure out how we're going to do that. And you can leave that meeting having done something for local policy. And very quickly, I also want to say that outside of work, I organize with Sunrise Bay Area. I'm the art team lead for this hub. And so this is, again, a national movement that is decentralized into local hubs. And really the purpose of the Sunrise movement is to build a movement of young people who want to make climate change an urgent priority across the United States. We are really focused on ending the corrupting influence of fossil fuel executives in our politics. And we want to elect better leaders who stand up for health and well-being. And our main campaign is to push a Green New Deal at the local, state, and federal level. So here in the Bay Area, we take action to try to see those things through. And, we have Nancy Pelosi here as a main target, so we can be pushing this policy at the national scale. And we also take actions at the local scale to push for local Green New Deal initiatives. What I will say about Sunrise is we're a very agile organization. We really respond to the current political climate and take opportunities as they come. So it's difficult for me to say right now what upcoming activities we have for you all to support because we're still building a new campaign with the new administration. We were really focused on getting Joe Biden elected, and now we need to push him to be accountable to his climate promises. But we have a really great group of supporters over 35 who help our hub in the ways that we need. We're a bunch of young people, so we often need help fundraising. And we want to have the support of other people to help with trainings that we do. So to help provide venues or prepare food when we train other young people. And we hope to have you, get back in the streets with us for climate action, climate strikes that we do. And if you're interested in being one of our 35 plus supporters, we have a great team of advocates who organize together, and I can connect you with them.
Thank you, Julia.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you will get my email in the follow-up, but I'm happy to connect you to all these opportunities.
Thank you. And now Todd Weber, who is the volunteer chapter co-leader of Elders Climate Action, is going to be speaking. Thank you, Todd.
Hi, folks. Let's see, I'm going to share my screen here. We tried this and it should work. Aha, here we go. About 3 years ago, I retired from a company, Cisco Systems, working on WebEx. And this stuff that we're using, this Zoom video, the president of the company, Eric Wan, and I worked together at Cisco there in WebEx days. And when I retired, I'm an engineer, and my father was an engineer, and my son is an engineer. And so I was gonna retire and fix climate change, because that's what engineers do. They fix stuff. And it turned out it's not that simple. And that was very frustrating. I felt pretty bad, but I ended up running into this group called Elders Climate Action. Just a phenomenal organization in terms of the range. We've got literally across the United States, we've got membership, and I'll give a couple of those details real quick. And let's see, here's overall our mission. And so just behind this, so our focuses tend to be, number one, on communication, connecting and building communities. We find, especially in our NorCal chapter, we cover such a range, physical, geographic range, that our members are really very busy and very engaged in their local communities. So a lot of what we're trying to do is make sure that what we're communicating to our members helps them be successful in their local community efforts. And everyone that's spoken so far is literally speaking of local efforts. Just incredible. But at the same time, we have within our mission and our efforts, we connect across the states, across our various chapters, and up at national level and even at global level beginning nowadays. Elders Climate Action itself was conceived in 2014, so it's not that old as an organization. It's a project, so it's a subgroup from an organization called Elders Action Network, which is a not-for-profit organization. And the Elders Action Network mission is to encourage elders to take action on the social and environmental challenges of our time. Our ECA focus tends to be principally here on climate, but if you are interested in not just climate, but broader things as well in terms of integrating in society and so forth, again, you can work either directly up at the Elders Action Network level or with our group, Elders Climate Action, and focus mostly on climate. Currently, there's nearly 15,000 elders across 50 different states, members in Canada, Mexico, Europe, Africa, Australia, and beyond. Last year, we spun up new chapters in the state of Oregon, Twin Cities, Minnesota, and Southern California. We expanded with a special sub-team group in our Nevada County here in California, where we had a fairly large group of elders. Things that we do they're just incredible. In 2018, Elders Climate Action began a partnership with the Environmental Voter Project, which is to go get inactive voters and get them to come forward and register and actually take voting action. It's been phenomenal. We did Elders Promote the Vote efforts with 260 of our members. Contacted volunteers have done more than 600,000 text messages, made nearly 14,000 phone calls just in this year trying to help get the vote out. We have elders declare a climate emergency group that's forming now to try to leverage climate emergencies. And we just have a number of different teams. We're very, very focused right now on California legislation and policy, and a number of the different people have already talked about that. We're deeply tied in what we're doing. We're trying to track as a network with 350, with Sierra Club, and try to make sure that when we're working together, literally as a network of elders, we're pushing the policies and practices that the state needs and that the state can literally lead the country with. I was supposed to answer, what are we most excited about for 2021? 2021 is a brand new ball game as far as we can see. We didn't know we would be able to be where we are here in 2021, but now we've got to double down, and a couple of people have commented on that. We have the opportunity to fix a lot of broken stuff. And we as Elders Climate Action appreciate being a part of that. We have monthly all-member meetings that people can come join as just as guests if you want to come and meet the organization. And with that, there's going to be, you're going to get an email following the meeting with more details, but that'll include a link to just be able to go in and sign on. You'll start getting in communication. You'll get a lot of information from us about climate activities and opportunities. So we try to make sure we communicate well. And with that, I'll close. And what I want to do is very quickly just introduce Linda Lewin. And Linda, I'm going to unshare here, stop sharing. And I'm going to turn it over. Linda, are you there? Hello, Linda Lewin. Okay, Linda's not necessarily. Anyway,
you're muted.
Oh, there we go. You there, Linda? Okay.
Linda, you are still muted. I see your mouth moving, but we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Hi, Linda. Want to introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm a member of the village. I've been a member of the San Francisco Village for maybe 5 years and a member of ECA for at least 3 years. And I've been trying to get the village members interested in Elders Climate Action, and now it finally happened. So I've gotten some letters to the editor published in the Chronicle about various issues, and I just try to attend the legislative committee meetings led by one of the ECA people named Bill Murphy. He's your best bet. He knows all about the legislation that's being considered in Sacramento, and try to write at least one letter a month about one of those bills under consideration.
Thank you, Linda, very much. And thanks to the whole group. We appreciate being here talking with you. We'd love to have you join with us. So much work to do, so little time. Just phenomenal. Thank you all.
Well, and thank you, Todd. So we've had a lot of food for thought here. You've heard about everything from grant writing and research needs to art and demonstration involvement to being policy savvy volunteers on issue committees, virtual Green Fridays, environmental voter registration. There's a real gamut of possibilities. And so now, since that is a lot of food for thought, we're going to go back to Bill Haskell, who's going to talk about the formation of the breakout groups so that you'll have a chance to talk with each other about some of what you've heard. Thank you, Bill.
Now it's your turn to talk. Thanks, Rochelle. We're going to break into 9 breakout groups for about 15 minutes total. So you can share what's most interesting and which organization you would like to explore further. So you're really going to talk about all 5 organizations and what you found most interesting to you. Each breakout group should identify a facilitator who can make sure everybody gets a chance to talk, and a note taker who can be responsible to report back to the larger group once we return after the breakout group. So now I think we're going to move into 9 different breakout groups, and you should be getting a notice from Su Yin, and here you go into a breakout group now. You can choose to join by the button on the screen in the middle. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to report out for group 1. We discussed all 5 organizations, and there was interest in all 5 in different ways, I have to say. I guess one concern that was expressed by one of the members in this group was in the San Francisco Village, could there be an elder action committee like there is in Ashby Village in Berkeley? And the idea would be some place that village members in San Francisco could gather to talk about whichever organization individuals choose to become involved in, like 1,000 Grandmothers or Active Allies or 350 Bay Area or the Sierra Club or Elders Climate Action. And Elder Action in Ashby Village is a model that we may want to think about in San Francisco Village. So I'll leave it at that and turn it back to you.
Okay.
Next report out.
The next report out from group 2, please, we all knew Bill because he's spoken before, but if you would please start by giving us your name, what village you're connected to, then give us your 1-minute report and 1 short question for a speaker.
Okay, I'm Mariana Grossman. I was designated by group 2 to speak out. I actually live in Portland, Oregon, so my heart is with all of you, but I'm not a member of any California village. And I am, the conversation brought up, is there a way for being involved in gardening or tree planting, direct action kind of with the earth and with other people? And a number of people were interested in 1,000 Grandmothers. One person brought up the importance of addressing overpopulation as a huge contributor to the destruction of the planet that we humans are engaged in. And we talked about the need for transitioning our economy and society from domination and exploitation model to reciprocity, reverence, more of an indigenous-based partnership with nature, so that we're not assaulting nature with chemicals and with climate pollutants and with taking up too much space on the planet. So that was the themes that we talked about, and the group that most of the people were interested in was 1,000 Grandmothers.
Did you have 1 question that you wanted to ask the speakers? Did you come up with something like that?
I think the question I guess there were really 2 questions, but the 1 question was, are there opportunities for direct action to help plant trees after the forest fires in particular?
And would one of the speakers have anything to say about that specifically at this point? We're going to find that out then for people within your group, Mariana.
Thank you.
You're welcome. From group 3, could the person who was going to be reporting back start out?
I don't know what group I was in, so if I was in group 3, I'm reporting, but otherwise I don't know.
Okay, why don't you do that?
Okay, so reporting for whatever group I was in. Thank you everyone for all you're doing and what you've shared with us. It's fantastic. So our group was a little confused about the assignment, so we talked a little bit about that, and then it sort of there was a lot of curiosity about what opportunities could happen locally, and also what opportunities could happen from home. So if it's postcards or whatever, that was a curiosity that arose. And but we also wanted to address sort of the bigger issues that we face. And so our question was, what do you think are the root causes of climate disruption? just a nice, light, easy topic for you all.
Does one of our speakers want to take a shot at starting to address that question?
It's certainly a boundless question, I'll say. And a lot depends on at what point in the scale of time you want to consider. What I think we simply have today is overwhelming evidence that human behavior is driving the climate of our Earth beyond what humans are going to be able to survive. And if we don't slow the school bus down real quick, take its wheels off and replace it with an electric school bus soon, then it's not going to come out well at all. And all of us currently on the screen, we won't be here to fight any longer for it. And our kids and grandkids are going to have to deal with it. So one of the comments during our session was the term legacy is we have the opportunity here to firm up in our legacy that we did stuff that was necessary to stop the rampant increase in carbon in our atmosphere. That is what is driving the climate crisis, carbon in our atmosphere. There's a certain natural amount that should be there. And then there's all of the additional stuff that we're pumping in every day. We're pumping more than we did yesterday. So
Okay,
that
I would push you, Todd, a little further, but that's a different discussion. Perhaps we
Okay.
can do that offline. I think that's more of a symptom than it is a root cause, but that's another discussion.
But thanks for starting it off, Todd. I mean, it's just part of what I think is going to motivate a lot of people to keep on this and keep doing it together. Is there a person from a fourth group who is going to report in on how things went in your small group?
I can report, I think we were 7, but I'm not sure myself. I'm Meryl Gerhardt from Ashby Village. We mulled over the distinctions among the different groups. We were very impressed by all of them. Some are specifically involving elders, others are intergenerational, and there's the big fish, small pond question. And tied to that, I guess our question is that in that so many organizations are focused on the same objectives and are engaged in the same initiatives, how to pick, a tough question. And I guess I would add to that personally, whether there's a need to pick for Ashby Village and the village and San Francisco Village to pick. Questions about activism around job possibilities for job transitions. And there was interest in that arena, how to reach out to unions, for example. And finally, interest in education, how to help, what might our role be in educating people, getting the word out so that people understand the mechanisms of global warming and how to address the problems caused by global warming.
And did you have a question that you wanted to direct to the speaker?
I think we didn't, but I think a question that we all sort of nodded our heads about was how to pick, given that so many are doing the same thing, and how do we make a choice?
Okay. Did any of our speakers want to comment on that, or we are going to talk about that a little more actually in the following 10 minutes or so of our program?
Yeah, I was going to say, Rochelle, that's what we talked about. I mean, this event is an example where people don't necessarily have to pick. If they can start becoming knowledgeable about what's available, and so used to be you had to pick one if you could find one. Now there's so many. How do you understand them? Well, sessions like this are incredible to share the information.
Well, we also have thought about the time between now and our next large gathering in April would be a time that you could explore with a small group of people or on your own some of the different specific offerings. Like maybe you want to do stuff from home, like it was suggested. What is happening through the Sierra Club that you could do from home, since we're all still pretty much getting second COVID shots and still at home. So things like that are opportunities to go to each of the different organizations, but to really start with a small group of people. Start somewhere and then proceed.
Yeah, the thing about procrastination is that if you start anywhere, when you can't figure out what to pick out, it will snowball.
So just starting somewhere
Yes.
is what gets it underway. Was there a reporter from any of the other groups? And Felix, I see your hand up. You'll be on shortly. Yes, Laura.
I just have to make an exit. So I wanted to represent group 5.
Okay.
There were 4 of us. 3 of us identified as kind of climate beginners looking for a place to start, but motivated. Appreciated all the groups and added another one. And I think the 2 questions were, one was just a confirmation that we would all get the follow-up information about how to contact the organizations and where to enter, so that we might, the way Jean was saying, that we might experiment and then come back to the next group.
Mm-hmm. And we are going to put out that letter over the weekend. Bill and I are putting it together tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and just really a sense of excitement about getting started.
Oh, that's great. Was there someone from a group 6?
Well, I'll report on our group.
Perfect.
Which was a 5-person group. And we focused pretty much on the idea that individual personal action is still very important. We were looking at the wonderful irony of people who drive to protest marches, what? Wasting gas to protest gas, that kind of thing. And the need to focus on individual action is going to land on us because we are facing a drought condition, and that usually involves a lot of independent action of gardening and running your kitchen and so forth. And we were looking at the question of how do we push society and industry when we're not working on our own individual actions? Where do we push? And we didn't have much time to promote that, to pursue on that idea, but maybe the groups can answer that question for us.
Was there a speaker who wanted to address that?
I can speak a little bit in terms of Thousand Grandmothers' perspective on this. Root causes are related to capitalism and exploitation of natural resources. And the grandmothers really focus on keep it in the ground, stopping the development of fossil fuels like the tar sands and the pipelines that we're fighting against. A way to get in there is to join our email list and go to our Facebook page and see the various actions that we're taking, many of them from home, to make phone calls and write letters relating to stopping the exploitation of fossil fuels, which adds the carbon that we can no longer afford to add to our atmosphere.
Well, and I think in terms of some more of the individual action that was being talked about, there are, and people talking about the upcoming fires, villages themselves can serve as a communications apparatus to even inform all of our members, what kind of a go bag do you need if you live in a fire area or a drought area? What sort of things do you need to have done? And could a volunteer from your village help you put something like that together, should that be an issue? So that there are things that the villages themselves can begin to do, our villages, ourselves, to be kind of the volunteers about some of that. Is there any group that has not yet reported back? Arabella is how I have you identified.
Okay. All right. So there were 3 of us, and we we felt a bit overwhelmed with all the input, with all the information coming our way. But we started talking about our interests, and one of them is a member of the Sierra Club, and he was thinking about how he could move from the activities side to getting involved with some parts of the Sierra Club action. And let's see, Rondi, who is with the Ashby Village, was concerned about more local issues, more on the local level. We have a drought going on, and so she thinks she wants to stay more on the local level as far as doing any action. And I guess I'm more of a global, I have more of a global interest. And what is on my mind right now is the depletion of groundwater. And I had read an article about the push now for electric energy, electric vehicles, and how lithium plays a large part. And so to my dismay, the production of that electric energy involves huge amounts of lithium, and it's an extraction. In other words, we're not leaving it in the ground, we're extracting again the lithium, and then using the lithium with water. And apparently it involves copious amounts of water as part of the production cycle.
And that's the research about that is something that would, I think, be of interest to many of us here.
Yeah, so our question was, how can we prevent further depletion by industries, especially in the production of electric energy and electric vehicles? Because the Tesla, Musk, the Tesla owner, he's so gung-ho about having his own lithium plant. Anyway, I could go on.
But that issue, I think, is one of the sorts of things that could be researched as part of our work together. So I wanted to thank everybody for your interest and for reporting out. And I think what we want to do now is talk about the next stage. Bill Haskell is going to be taking us through that. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Rochelle. Now, before we end the session, we would like to have you start somewhere. I think that's the big challenge. We heard a lot of information today, but if we can start somewhere, that's a place to begin. So what we're going to do is to divide you all into 3 to 5 new groups, depending upon your interests, that will be aligned with the climate action organizations presented. It's our hope that these new groups will meet online between this session and the second session that we'll be holding of this larger group in April. This will be your opportunity to explore further one organization that is of most interest to you by doing some online research as part of a larger research group. So now, Suyin is going to put up on the screen a poll, a simple poll, and you just have to choose which one organization that you are most interested in to explore further what they do and how you might get involved. All you have to do is to choose one, but know that we would like to share email addresses. So if you're not comfortable with our sharing email addresses, that may not be something you want to do. However, if you choose one, we'll probably want to share, we will want to share the email addresses of all people who choose that one organization so that you can join together and meet offline, or at least off this meeting, online between the 2 large meetings. So please choose one of the 5 organizations on your poll here.
And I just did it. It's really easy.
You just have to move your cursor and click.
What's not easy is choosing.
Well, that's a challenge. but this is where you
How
have
you're
to
gonna
start
start.
somewhere.
I will just say one thing here. Bill McKibben, when asked, what should I do about climate change? What he answered is join an organization. And it really doesn't matter which one you start with. You may continue, you may move to another. There's others in the Bay Area that besides the ones that presented today. So just get started.
So at this point, we have a 62% of you have completed the poll. I'll give a few more seconds. And again, we will be using these results to send follow-up emails to any of you who have selected the group and get you in touch with each other. It's a very even split right now, so that's exciting. There's a lot of interest, I think, in all of them.
And as we're waiting for people to complete their poll choice, because we're running a little late, I wanted to just say to everyone that we really want to thank each and every one of you who devoted your morning to start to move from concern about climate crisis to some sort of action. That we hope over the next few weeks, you're going to go deeper into the organizations you picked and to rejoin the big group as a way to share what you've learned and how you hope to proceed. We are going to send as part of our follow-up letter a way of talking about the 3 dates we're looking at of April the 8th, April the 9th, and April the 23rd as the next time for us to get together. And we wanted to also acknowledge that it takes a village to produce events like today's. So big thank you to our speakers who so generously gave us their time and resources. And a special thanks to the Ashby Village Project Coordinator, Suyin Bickner. If we could all do a standing ovation, we would, for your spectacular support until today and today. Thank you also to the Ashby Village board member, Julie Freestone. She's been writing the minutes. She's going to write a story about this event for each of the newsletters from our villages and for Village Movement California's. Thank you also to the IT team leader at Ashby Village, Meryl Gerhardt, for curating our Google Sheet. To San Francisco Village volunteer Lillian Von Cleve for monitoring the chat box. And my extreme special thanks to San Francisco Village Board co-chair Bill Haskell for being such a wonderful companion with whom to plan today's gathering. But again, most of all, we want to thank each of you who devoted your morning to start moving, as I said, from concern about climate crisis to action. And although we're still apart, remember, now we're not alone anymore. And together we're going to make a difference. So,
Rochelle?
Still waiting? Yes?
The chat contains a whole lot of really good information here. Is that going to go out to folks so they get a copy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can definitely download the chat and share to all, maybe as another attachment to the follow-up email. The poll is done. It kind of sat at about 68%, so I ended it. So I can quickly share the results. It's a very even split. There's obviously, each of these organizations is incredible. So for any of you who have marked your selection, we will send a follow-up email for those 6, 7, 5 who selected those groups. And we want you all to continue to participate and get involved.
And Bill, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
I'm just really happy we had this time together today and that we can all now dig a little deeper and see what's of greatest interest to us, and looking forward to seeing you all again in about a month once we choose the date. And thanks everybody for coming today.
Well,
you're welcome. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.